that's obviously all done.
Aus Prop Investors on Wednesday night. It is the place you want to be. We bring the big names. We have the big fun. How you going today, Lachlan?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
So much energy, and you're just like, oh man, it's okay. Sorry,
there's definitely a difference. There was a difference of energy in that.
Okay, it's lockdown, all right. Give me a break. It's lockdown. It's like week 10 of
it. But in all seriousness, that's good to hear that you're fantastic. Really, you're excited to have you on. We want the questions, want the comments, because we've got the house. Joe's been pumping this like a footy, like a footy preseason. So he's been pumping it up so much because it's been flat. He loves the house. Well, he loves talking about house and land. So, Joe, how's your day been?
Mate, my day's well. My day is very well. Now, I've been researching house and land packages. It's not an asset class that I've very, very much looked into for a long, long time. It's one of those asset classes that you look into right at the beginning. So, when you're just starting property investing.
Have you gone to the dyke side, Joe? Do I need to mute you from the group for a little bit?
put me in the naughty corner for 7 days. Yeah, exactly. How are you, Jeff? How are you?
Mate, really good. Been doing some training, just learning a new role. So it's always fun times, and looking at property kind of options as to what I'm doing with some of the moving pieces in my portfolio. So stay tuned, folks. I've seen some good gains in the market. One of the markets that so I'm sort of thinking maybe now's the time to get it done and move on to a new asset. So that's what I'm all about. So yeah,
roll on those winnings, mate. Roll on those winnings. Now, if we see Lachlan just like fall off his chair, he's had his first vaccine dose. So it just kind of bear that in mind, people. If I had mine last week and it was a bit rough. Was it last week? It was a bit rough. So if you're feeling fine now, Lachlan, though?
No, I'll be right. It's all good.
Okay, let's get into our life hacks. Jeff, I feel like you've got a bit of a stunner here. I think you've got a bit of a nice one ready to rock and roll for us.
Absolutely. I was using it last night, so that's what she said. So first up, I want to see some comments. What is everybody's life hacks? What's everybody doing? I want to see people get excited but my life hack is in Vision. So actually, no, sorry, it's not in Vision. It's called Figam. I thought it was Fig Jam, but so Figam, which is a whiteboard flat. If you ever need to share a whiteboard session with somebody, jump on Figam, Figam, and it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to share something with somebody else, and that's my life hack for this week.
Called Figma.
Figam. I thought it was Figam. Anyway, so that was a bit of a life hack fail, but Joe knows all about it.
It's a life flop. Yeah. Well, I do enjoy beer a lot, but also you can't be drinking beer every day apparently. So what I recommend is a Soda Stream. It fizzes the water for you. It makes it delicious. It makes delicious fizzy water. So you cannot drink so much beer. I do love it, but you got to not have so much. Or everything in proportion. So my life hack is get yourself a Soda Stream, and you'll be good to go. Lachlan, what is yours?
Well, I've got a good one for you. So I'm somebody who likes to live in my head at times, and I can have a lot of good ideas. And, you'll be out and about, maybe you're, at the pub with the boys, or you're just, out with the family doing something, and
roasting some meats.
Yeah, roasting some meats, exactly right. And you have a good idea come to you, and you start to sort of flesh it out in your mind, but you lose it, or you pull out your notes app or something on your phone, and you sort of start jotting it down, but it's a bit chaotic, and I've got a fix for it. So I've found an app, and it's called Mind Node. So Mind and then Node, Node, and it's basically a mind mapping tool, and you can do all the little offshoots and everything, and you can just fully explore these ideas. It looks better on iPads, to be fair, but you can still do it on your iPhone. And, if you're one of those people that get creative ideas and you just want to be able to map it out a bit better than just, paragraphs on your notepad, it's a pretty cool little tool.
Oh, what was your, what kind of ideas do you have? Like, is it business ideas, like something to run in your own business, or
just taking over the world, just however that's going to happen.
Sharks and lasers.
One note at a time.
One note at a time, and one smoke up at a time.
Love it. That's actually, you pulled one from, like, there's absolute gold. I'm going to have to look that one up. I'm going to have to look at it. I'm serious. I don't normally look up the life hacks, but this is one I'm going to look at. Fantastic. Let's before we get into a massive kind of pump up as to what Lachlan is, let's pay the bills, Joe. Let's do it. I'm excited.
Let's put on our first sponsor for the night. But while we watch this fantastic little video for Scott Agate, pop in the comments, guys. We are going to have an awesome breakdown of house and land packages, of what they are, the value that they hold, and what our thoughts are on them as investments. So if you get any questions at all, pop them in there. Do you have a house and land package? Have you bought one? What was your experience? And we'll dive in. But let's have a listen to Scott Agate. Scott Agate. You would have seen him on the 7 p.m. project campaigning against agent underquoting. Scott is an expert negotiator through and through. Every single day, he is negotiating with real estate agents to get the best price for his clients. To give you a bit of a background, Scott has been working in real estate since 1995, and as a real estate agent, built up 3 Bell franchises. He was the guy teaching the agent all the tips and tricks to get the most out of the buyers. However, Scott realized that there was actually no one on the side of the person buying the property, and he saw them constantly letting emotion get in the way and paying way over for the property. And that's why he created Hello House, Australia's first property negotiation as a service business, where he is on the side of the buyer. In hot markets like we have now, you need absolutely every single edge that you can get. These agents are trained professionals, and they are there to get the most money out of you, which is why you need to have an expert of your own in your own corner. The way it works, you find the property, then Scott will come in at the negotiation phase and take over for you. This is how you'll get the property for its true value. He'll ensure that you don't overpay. He comes in, knocks the real estate agent down on price. No more agent games, no more tricks, no more tactics. He is there for you. Scott has been kind enough to offer us an amazing discount on his service, and I've personally just seen a friend pay $20,000 more on a property because of these agent games. Reach out to him with the link below. It'll be the best property investment you will ever make.
There you go, Joe. So that's I'm actually going to have a chat to Scott tomorrow about this because I want to get a feel for the market that I'm looking at. So anyway, that's my little, maybe there could be a story. So, but this is about you, Lachlan. So I want to hear, or not, I want to hear. I will give you. So I've heard your story. So and I've been listening. I remember the first podcast I listened about a year ago, and it was just you struck me as somebody who you're very methodical and you're very kind of focused, very structured, and I really enjoy that. You've prepared a PowerPoint for us. How good is that? But you bring, and that's your unique discipline and work ethic. So you've got your BA buyer's agency, which has started, which is Atlas Property Group, APG. I kind of like APG, the good acronym. So but you were an officer though in the Royal Australian Navy. So thanks for doing that service. And I heard some of the stories that you shared on a podcast or two about that. So you kind of bring that discipline, that focus, and you built your own. I believe everybody's got a multi-million-dollar property portfolio these days, but not everybody. But not everybody's been able to build it as succinctly and fantastic as what you have been able to do that. So excited to have you on and talk property, talk discipline, talk house and land, and talk numbers, and you bring unique perspective, and that's what I really love. That's what we love getting on the show. So what did I miss? Anything I should have plugged? You love a barbecue and beers with the boys, perhaps as well. Maybe that's not the thing I should have mentioned.
I reckon that's a pretty cracking intro. I might have to just get you to do that, record it for me, and I can just play that in the future.
Yeah, the one thing I did miss is you said you told us you get some multiple awards for leadership, innovation, and teamwork. So that's something you don't always get awards for teamwork. So I think that sort of speaks volumes about yourself, because it's often that a lot of people are kind of lone wolves and they do well, but they can't play as well with others. So I think that says a lot about your character. So good on you. So let's get into the first question. Let's get into the interview or the start of it.
You've already started it, mate. You've already started it.
I know. I was like, where am I going with that? So, okay, well, my first question is, take us back to where it all began. What was your first property and how did it all look, and what things did you learn from that? It's like 5 questions there.
Yeah, Jesus. Okay, here we go. So, first property, I was like most people, right? You know, I wanted to get into it. I mean, before I invested in property, I'd invested in the share market, and I'd, done what a lot of people do, where you sort of dip your toe in the water where you can, when you can, to get a bit of a taste for it. Did all right out of that, which was, I guess, nice. But I guess probably not too dissimilar to most people's story into property. I just read a lot of books, read a lot of stuff. I guess I thought I learned a lot of really good stuff about property, and I thought, oh, well, why wouldn't I try and invest in this, right? Like, as soon as I found out about equity and compounding, or compounding that equity more so than just compounding in general, but particularly that equity idea, I was like, oh my God, why am I mucking around with the share market, where if I put in, $5 grand or 10 grand, I'm just earning, 10%, 20% on that. Why don't I just do that, but for the property market, and leverage and get that value? So I guess that was what really started getting me heading towards property.
I love that. Yeah, well, I mean, just on that point, right? Like, that was one of the big things for me as well. It was like, do you think you are the best investor in the world? Let's say you can do 30% returns for your share market portfolio, right? So you can get 30%, 30%, 30%, 30%. But if you only have like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, $50,000, like, it is going to take a long time. But you're obviously not the best, share investor that there is. Or you could take that $50,000, leverage that into a $400,000 property, maybe with some help with the family or whatever it is. But you can just massively make a big old difference to that, because you're using leverage. So you're getting your $50,000 on the $500,000 asset or the $400,000 asset or whatever it is.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I'd say everybody's got to run whatever they want to do as well. I don't think. Look, we're Aus Property, but I suppose what I'm saying is that Joe's not saying go out and do that tomorrow. You got to do what you got to do. That's just general. But yeah, leverage. Because it's interesting. Yeah, go on, Lachlan. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to agree with you, and I mean, I think you phrased it really well. That even if you are the world's best investor, if you're Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, whoever you are, it's great to get a good return out of shares. Like, I don't think anybody really disputes the fact that on a percentage return basis, the share market will often outperform property. But what pays the bills? A higher percentage return or a higher total return, right? Like, I'd rather get 10% of the 500,000 than 20% of the 50, right? Like, it's, one thing's going to pay the bills and one isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that holds true until the 20% compounds, right? So it's all. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I suppose it's like, do you want the one grain of rice today, or do you want 30? Yeah, that whole old Chinese adage thing.
There you go. So, Lachlan, what kind of got you into property? Like, how did you actually start to get interested in property? Were you like in the army and then just sitting there reading a property book and it just kind of all clicked? Or what happened?
Maybe.
That's what I meant.
So I don't know if there was really one moment. Like, I don't know if a lot of people can sit there and go, like, there was one moment that I really wanted to do property or whatever. But for me, like, I was studying a business undergraduate degree at the time. So, like, I guess I was sort of around that whole idea of business and money and investing and that sort of thing. So, like, I was sort of in a bit of that mindset. Like I said, I was sort of in the share market doing, little bits here and there. It wasn't earth-shattering numbers, like $1,000 here and there. But I guess one day I just sort of picked up a book. I think it was a book that was just about investing in general. And then it had some stuff about the share market. And I think I probably bought the book for that purpose. But then I also had some stuff about property. And then as I was obviously, going through and reading that property part, that was where I guess my interest started going from, all over here, way over here on the shares to, okay, here I'm a bit more central, like maybe a little bit of both. And I guess, to be fair, I do believe in diversification. But then, I started to read more and understand more. And I was like, okay, well, property right over here. Like, it's so powerful if you can leverage it and use it properly. And then I sort of ran from there.
Sorry, there's a delay, and there's a delay for Jeff. So I'm like, Jeff is going to say something. We're going to cut each other off.
There's absolutely no delay. I was waiting. I was like, I'm going to wait for Joe to say something, because the discipline is wearing off on me, Joe. And man, I'm insulted. You didn't know that I was waiting for you to say something.
There it is. There you go. Okay, cool. So there was no magic catalyst for you. It was just starting to go into it. So give us a bit of a rundown of the first purchase. What did that kind of look like? How was the process for you?
So I guess for the first one, like pretty much everyone, I don't know how many people go and buy their first property and know what they're doing or anything. I just saved, squirreled away, and then my partner, Tori, and she's obviously, I guess she'll get brought up a bit later on as well, but, we saved and then looked into what we could do. And then I'll be the first to admit, I used a buyer's agent for my first purchase. I was like, I don't really know enough, and I need a bit of help because I don't want to make a bad mistake, right? Like I'd much rather pay somebody some money and take away a lot of that risk and get some help. So I did. And then for that first purchase, it ended up being, around like high 200s, low 300s, just a real easy, simple, well, not simple, but, it wasn't anything extravagant. It was just get some bricks and mortar, get a bit of land, buy it, and then rent it out and then have it start paying for itself.
Yeah. Okay. And how did you find, so just to give you a bit of a background, like from my first buyer's agent experience, I chose the best buyer's agent in Sydney, obviously, as per their advertising. But it was definitely not the best buyer's agent in Sydney, and I purchased a dud.
Right? It was risky, Joe, putting that out because it's they actually use that. I think they use that still in their marketing.
Don't believe it. Don't believe it.
I don't think it's even Sydney. I think they say Australia. But
anyway, so I had a poor experience, and I was like, that's so crazy. Like, why has it been such a difficult process? Why was it so hard to buy this property? It was an easy property, but why is it such a dud? How was your first experience using a buyer's agent? What was it like?
Mine was, pretty good. Like, I guess it's interesting looking back now, obviously being in the game and sort of understanding more behind the scenes, obviously knowing a lot more about property now than when I started, or at least, I'm sure people hope that I do.
Hope so.
But yeah, no, like it was pretty good. And I guess when I look back and reflect on it, like it was, when you're buying a property for under $300,000, you can't expect the world, right? Like, of course, some markets are going to do well, and that happens. But you can't sit back and go, why didn't I get, the capital growth for somewhere like Bondi? Exactly right. So I guess when I put a bit of pragmatism over the top of it, and I don't need to put that much whatsoever, like it's performed pretty well. I think it's something like 7% compound that it's returned, like 6 or 7%. Obviously, not straight line, but when you take into account the different rates over the years.
Yeah, I think it's been a 6.8% return over the last 25 years or something. Property.
Yeah, so pretty good. I can't really say much. Like I guess for me, not only was it my first experience with property, but it was my first experience seeing professionals other than real estate agents. And I sort of, it was great to see that. It was great to see people that do well and try to do the right thing. I think that's the most important part. Like, no one's ever going to get it right 100% of the time. Like, you could literally be Australia's best buyer's agent, right? But you're still going to get it wrong every once in a while. And but as long as you got people's best interests at heart, and then you can see why people are doing things, and ultimately, I guess as a client, I still agreed to it and things like that. I think that's the most important thing, right? Like you don't want to get into bed with snake oil salesmen. So if they've got the right idea, there from the start, I think that's 9/10 of the way there.
Yeah. API, assume positive intent, as what Joe says. So that's a great background. I think it's very, very kind of, a lot of people see the glitz and the glamour of all this. It's really, really kind of really exciting to hear somebody get a bit raw about their experience. That's really, thanks for sharing that, Lachlan. That's fantastic. So you've actually prepared a PowerPoint, and so let's dive into the PowerPoint. Let's dig into your foundational kind of lessons on property before you get to the really juicy house and land stuff. And we're gonna role play tonight, Joe. We're gonna role play around house and land, or what? That's kind of sound like what we were talking about.
It's going to be a bit of a battle. Lachlan is going to be.
Maybe I should have brought my boxing gloves.
Should have brought your boxing gloves.
Mike Tyson. Call me Iron J, not Iron.
What have we got? What have we got here, Lachlan?
So I mean, as I think both you and Jeff have sort of been talking about with everything coming up to this, I think we all thought it'd be really, really good to come in and have a bit of a chat about some of the 5, or what I think are some of the 5 foundational, I guess, investment metrics to look at. And some of the ones people here are really going to know and understand it. And they're not necessarily metrics in the sense of what some people think about, but I guess 5 really core numbers, things to understand about property. And as we're going to talk about later, you know, I'm a big believer in education from a professional perspective, but as well as the individual. And I guess that's why I thought this would be some really good stuff for us to talk about at the start, because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people overlook some of these things, but I consider them bread and butter for what I do.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm excited. Let's do it.
We have the 5 metrics that matter in our little thing, in our little newsletter that we have. So it'll be interesting to see how many of your 5 things match up with our 5 things. Are these? So we've got. Are these in your book? Is that where you're pulling these from?
Believe it or not, actually, none of them are in the book. They're totally different. So I think the book is more focused on like the property market when you're looking at things like, you know, rental yield or stuff like that. This is the stuff that I think people overlook. It's a bit more investment in general, like not necessarily property specific, but I think it's the stuff that, you know, is just important to know and understand because it plays such an important role. And if you can look at it, it can give you some really unique perspectives on how to look at an investment other than, you know, what a lot of other people would do, or like your typical mum and dad type investor might.
Vacancy rates or data market, all that kind of.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So it's going to be different for our show. It's going to be different.
Exactly.
Yours,
exactly right. And I guess the other part with them is some of them people are going to know, and I find that sometimes people don't quite know what they mean or how to, you know, properly work them out. That was the other part of this.
Yeah. I'm keen. Here we go. ROI, return on investment. Here we go. This is ROI. This is the daddy of investment, or mother, daddy or mother.
Yep, exactly right. And I think if I'm right, Joe, this is in your 5 key metrics.
Yes, it is. ROI.
Awesome. Okay, so return on investment. Everybody knows it. I think most people would know what return on investment is, and it's exactly as the name sounds. What was the return on the investment that you made? And I think that's a really key part that a lot of people do miss out on, is they forget about the fact that you have made an investment, right? So a lot of people would just go, like a really common one I hear is someone will go, oh, you know, I bought a property for, say, I'm just going to use, you know, round numbers here to make it easy. I bought a property for 100,000. I sold it for 200,000. And then somehow in the middle of that, they go, I doubled my money. But the reality is they didn't, you know, they 1 times it, you know, because you started with 100, you made 100. So it's not 2 times, you know, and that's something I get all the time.
Stamp duty and legals.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So that's the first one. And, you know, I think it's pretty simple once you sort of see it written out exactly like that. So it's literally as it reads, you just take the final value of what you had, you subtract what it cost you. So that's going to be, in a property sense, that's going to be your deposits. That's going to be your stamp duty. It's going to be all those things that come into it, right? And then you also add in the cash flow. So if you're going to look at it, and as the example is going to show in a second, I'll bring up, taking into account things like rental income, loan repayments, all that sort of stuff, you can actually add that in to see what happens. And I think there'll be a lot of people out there who, if they actually went and looked at the ROI on their investments right now, particularly when you take into account loan repayments and things like that, they might not be in as good of a position as they might expect.
Yeah, definitely. That's why you look at rent. That's why you look at nets versus gross. Which
exactly right.
Would you say you would look at net cash flow? I imagine in that thing, or would you look at gross? Like, what's your kind of?
I guess it depends. Like you can cut it up however you want. You just have to understand what you're doing, right? You just have to understand that if you look at it one way, what that means versus looking at it another way, because, you know, as soon as you know that, that's the most powerful point you can be in, because you can fully understand the repercussions of what you're saying.
Yep. I love that Joe's in this example. Look at him go. Joe's buying another house. Does that make you excited?
Joe is.
Joe's excited.
So, like it says there, so Joe, you bought a house. Congratulations, mate. And
Thank you.
And in that, you've incurred $30,000 of expenses when you buy it. You're then going to hold the property for 2 years, and you're going to sell it for $700. So that's not bad. You've had a pretty good run there.
Give me a couple of those.
And then earning a lot.
It's a good investment, right? That's the whole life, though. That's not the
that's not per annum. So 20 cents per year. So yeah, you'll
exactly right. 5%. Yeah. So then basically, you earn that money and then you also pay 35K in expenses. So the way it then ends up looking is like this. So for people to actually, see, because I'm a big visual learner myself with some things that I want to see, not just a word example, people talking about it. I like to see it written down. So then I know, oh, that does go there. I was right. So you plug in the 700 first, the 530 after that. So that's going to be what the money you think you've made on it, add in your cash flow, and then divide it by what you paid. And then as you can see there, over the whole life of that investment, not bad, you made 35%.
Okay, so that's a 17% return or 17.5% per annum return.
Not too bad. I'm not the bad investor.
Is it? Here we go, Jeff. Is it a 17.5% return per annum?
Well, if you do it over 2 years, then you got 17 times 2, 7 times 7 plus 7 is
5.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. Oh, do you want to know what the next one is?
Let's do the next one. It sounds like you're going to be wrong, Jeff.
Okay. Didn't take into account compounding.
Oh.
And this is a big one.
Well, you're going to have to explain this.
CAGR.
Yes. So exactly as what Jeff did there, this is what I see a lot of people doing, right? Property is great because you get the power of compounding. But when people go and analyze it, they forget about that, which is good and bad, right? Because when you look at compounding, your compounding rate is going to be lower because hence the compounding part. But on the other side, you are getting the compounding. So it's great. It's great from that side. But I find that compounding is such an important thing to understand because that's what your true rate of return is, right? Because you're earning money on your money.
Yep.
So it can get a bit complicated, and I have put it up there for people, but there's two sides. So the stuff that's on the left-hand side, that is one version of the compound growth calculator. So, or the compound growth formula. So the top part, it's actually, I think, pretty simple. You literally just take the ending value and you divide it by the beginning value, and then you raise it to the power of 1 over the number of years you held it. So if you held it for 2 years, it's going to be that. And I've got the example coming up. I'll even tap the example so that we can see it. You literally just put 7. Yeah. So it looks exactly like that. It's really easy. I don't think it's too hard, and it's really easy on Excel as well because you can just set up the formulas to do it. So it makes it nice and easy for you. But I thought on the right-hand side, I'd make it really easy for people because sometimes, depending on the data you have, you might have, say, monthly returns, you might have quarterly returns, and you can actually change it into a compound growth formula, right? So if you're getting, say, 4% per quarter, you can work out what that is over a whole year, right? So on that left-hand side, and I'm happy to give this over to you guys to put in the group for people to see. There's about 2, 4, 6 different ways that you can carve it up and see how you can change monthly returns into annual or quarterly or back down to monthly, all that sort of jazz.
How did it become more? I understand.
So
I get
because no, so on this one,
why is it not 17 and a half?
So I didn't include any expenses, right? I just took the two values, right? I made this example really simple. So on the other one where you got money coming in and things like that, that's why this one's a little bit different. But you can see how easy it is to get the two confused, right?
Yeah, and I suppose, of course, because let's just say it goes up 20 for simple numbers. Let's say it goes up 20% the first year, and so 20% first year goes up to 600K, and then if it continues to compound 20% on 600K is not another 100, it's 120,000, right? So then it would go up to 720,000. So it kind of that's where the compound growth kind of formula. If you could, so I think we might have lost show.
No, you haven't lost me. I just don't see how it's not 17 and a half. I feel like it is 17 and a half, and we've gotten rid of that decimal point, which is rounded up to 18. That's what's happened here.
Simple kind of simple road, yeah.
But maybe it's me. Let's move on.
So it sounds like it's been rounded, probably.
No,
exactly.
Look, there would have been a little bit of rounding, but like I said, because on the last example we took in your rent and things like that, this number's smaller. Hence the compounding number's a bit bigger because you got a bigger jump because there's no expenses, right? Yeah, so that's why you get a little bit and then a little bit of rounding. So if you want, Joe, I'll take it. We can put school in session after this, and I can run you through it again if you like.
Splitting
Love
hairs
to.
here. Let's kick on.
Let's do it. What's the next one? What's the next
Awesome.
metric
All right.
that matters?
And while you bring it up, I was going to say, what are everybody else's favorite metrics that they use? What are they? Are these anything you've ever thought of? Like, we've got close to 40. The audience is going crazy. Like, let's blow this session up, people. Let's get the comments cracking, because the more comments we get, the more excited Lachlan gets, and the more he's going to rip into Joe at House and Land package time. That's what I want to see. I want to see that.
That's what I'm getting waiting for. That's what I'm ready for.
Effective tax rate. Tell us about it.
All right, so important, right? And particularly, and I think it's a relevant topic since we're going to look at house and land packages later on, and people talk about depreciation, all that. Effective tax rate is something that's really important to understand. So what effective tax rate is, well. Exactly right. This is not financial advice. So what effective tax rate is that particularly in Australia, where we've got what's known as a progressive tax system, is that you go through different brackets of tax as you go up in income. So while a lot of people might have the misconception that they look at it and they go, I earn $100,000, so I'm in the 32.5% tax bracket, so I pay 32.5% tax. That's not quite true, because you pay tax on the way up. So you're actually always lower than your bracket, right? Yeah. And the reason why this is so important is because when you're looking at an investment property, whatever form it is, and you're starting to take into account depreciation, but also expenses in general, it's important to understand your effective tax rate, because you're going to be able to build a better and more accurate picture of what your cash flows and your returns are going to look like on the other end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
Okay.
How do we do it?
So look, the best way to do it is what it says on the right. So it's really simple. You basically take all the tax that you've paid, and then you divide it by your taxable income. And obviously, you're not going to know what tax you paid in this year, but I would say to people, if you're trying to get a bit of a feel, just have a look at your last couple of tax returns, right? Obviously, take into account if you've had any big pay rises or anything like that, but it'll give you a bit of a feel. So you go, okay, like I'm hitting around, say a 25% effective tax rate, whatever it might be, and then you can plug that into your formulas, and you're going to get a more accurate result. So fortunately for this one, the example is really, really similar. Jeff, we're talking about your tax return here, mate. I hope that's okay. I know you said not to share it with everyone, but here it is.
Jeremy, what's going on?
But look, really, I said to Jeremy, give me some wrong numbers.
little under by it, yeah. But anyway.
But look, it's a really simple equation. As you can see right there, you take the tax that you paid, and for you, Jeff, that was $25,000 in this example. You add in your salary, you add in all your income, but then you take out your deductions in this case, because we're just building out the bigger picture, because you're not just looking at your summary at the end of the year. And then boom, you can see right there, 21%. And for a lot of people, they might have just turned around and gone, oh, I'm gonna make my assessment of say 32%. Yeah. But here we go, 21. So you just get that more accurate picture when you're building out your models.
Ah, that's a very good way to look at it. That is a good way to look at it. Fantastic. So you think it's 32.5 or whatever your tax rate is, but no, in realistic, really, it's going to be 21.
Yeah, exactly right. And for most people, look, anyone who's a maths whiz out there can please don't fact check me on this, but pretty well a really good rule of thumb is whatever you think your tax bracket is, your effective tax rate's always going to be lower, because you are having those tiers as you go up, right? So even if you're at the top of your bracket, my understanding through some quick numbers that I've done over the years is that I don't think you can actually hit a 32.5% effective tax rate, even if you are at the top of your bracket, for example.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Any accountants prove us wrong now? I want to see evidence. So next up, we've got two more to go. Standard deviation.
We do. All right. It looks complicated, doesn't it?
I mean, I understand the principle, but yeah.
Yeah. It's too complicated to bother in today's day and age with Excel to bother calculating it by hand. So let's just ignore that equation that's up there, right? But for anyone who really loves maths and wants to get into the numbers, take a screenshot of that, or just Google standard deviation formula, and you can work it out by hand. I mean, people did that before Excel, right? But as I say, right there, let's just use the Excel function, because it's nice and easy, and Excel does all the heavy lifting for us. So why is standard deviation important? Well, in investing, we want to know what our risk is, right? What's our risk? And risk in investing, whatever sense it is pretty much the simple version of it is, what is the chance of a return not happening, right? And that's measured by standard deviation. So I'll give you the example because it will help to explain it out. These aren't real numbers. These aren't real numbers for anyone who's going, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to use this as part of my analysis. I made this up. So don't, yes. Real suburbs.
Not real numbers though. Not real numbers though. Yeah.
Not real numbers. Not real numbers. So basically, in terms of in a property context, how you can look to do it in a really simple fashion, go and look at what the suburb growth has been over whatever period. And the more periods you can bring into it, the more accurate it's going to be. Because if you just look at 2 years, who knows? That could have been the 2 biggest years or the 2 smallest years. You're not going to know. But as soon as you get it out to 10 years, 20 years, 30 years more, you build out, because the more data you have, the more reliable it can be. And it's really, really simple. Literally, you go to an Excel spreadsheet, put each of those numbers in its own cell, and then use the standard deviation formula. And you can just Google it. I'm not going to try and say what it is because it's all shorthand on Excel, but it will spit out a number for you. And in this case, with that set of numbers, it'll be 3.49%. So what does that mean functionally? It means in any 1 year, you expect that, and I haven't calculated what the growth rate is expected to be, but whatever that number is, say it was 8%, so you expect it to be 8%, you would expect that to deviate by 3.5% up or down. Very simply, right? So the lower the standard deviation, the better. And that's why it's known as risk, because you're going, okay, what's the risk? You're not going to get a good return, or you're going to minimize your return. What's about 3.5% up or down?
Because they say that most things eventually revert to the mean, right? Or is it the mean? So that's kind of what standard deviation measures.
Exactly right, mean reversion. So and you're right. And the longer time series you get, it's a phenomenon that does happen very frequently. But for a lot of people, you'll just be whipping out CoreLogic on your phone or whatever data platform you have. Go and use go and work out what the growth has been each year. Plug it in, and you'll get a good feel for it. And you'd be surprised. Like some suburbs, and particularly in markets like this, you get a bit of distortion because of big growth. But a lot of people, I think, would be surprised to see, oh wow, we're seeing like 12%, 10% standard deviation in some suburbs. Do you want to take on that amount of risk? For some people, or most people, possibly not.
You're feeling lucky. You feel, as Dirty Harry says, are you feeling lucky, punk? Or what? I haven't seen that movie, but yeah, heard the quote, so still counts. and I think we could actually spend a whole session talking about that. But what is our last ball? Joe's chomping at the bit. He's chomping.
All right, last one. So it's all good and well to understand risk, but what's a risk-adjusted return, right? So the thing that's great about a risk-adjusted return is you can actually go and compare investments across all different asset classes. So you could compare the return or the risk-adjusted return of a property in Kalanga. Is it Kalanga? I don't even know how to say it, but Kalanga versus Kalanga. Yeah. You can compare that property to buying shares in Commonwealth Bank, and you can see what's going to be best for me, right? So there's a lot of ways to do it. I picked one of the ways that's really simple, and one of the ways that's a bit more of an industry norm. So the really simple one is called the return to risk ratio. And as it says right there, it's really, really simple. It's what's your return divided by your risk. And then you'll get a number, and I'll show you what the example is for this. And as you can see there, we said an 8% return using that same standard deviation. So 2.29. So what you'd say is you get a return of 2.29 for every 1 unit of risk that you take. So that's good. That's a pretty solid result.
Yeah. So would you say Sharpe ratio is very similar to IRR, the internal rate of return, or is that just another name?
No, a little bit different. So the Sharpe ratio is about, so as you can see, there's an addition in that, and it's called the risk-free rate. Now, this is getting a bit more corporate finance, but I thought it was still, for the people out there who are a little bit more sophisticated and want to know a bit more, I thought I'd throw that out there. Exactly. So if you could make an investment in something that's risk-free and it was getting a good return, you'd do it, right? Whatever that number ends up being, you'd do it, right?
Yeah,
exactly right. So the point of the Sharpe ratio is to look at what are you getting above that risk-free rate. So at the moment, typically what you call the risk-free rate is the yield on the 10-year government bond. That's the typical risk-free rate, particularly when you're comparing property. 10-year government bond yield, the yield rate for that. So at the moment, and as we have been for a lot of years, that rate is really, really low. So the risk-free return is pretty much non-existent right now. So it's interesting when we get back into a time where that's higher. So as you see, there's not much of actually a difference between the two in this case because you can't get a strong risk-free return. But when we do get back to that time that maybe the bond is yielding, say, 5%, well, that's going to look a lot different, isn't it? Because it's going to be, 8% divided by 5% is 3 over 3.5. It's actually going to be, your ratio is going to be a lot lower, right? So
as a property investor, I have a offset mortgage, which is whatever my mortgage rate is, right, at 3.5%. So instead of using the bond rate,
and what you say
that again.
Plus, you're also, because you're that's 3%. You're also not paying any tax on it as well. Whereas if you earned 3% in the bank account, you would probably pay some tax on that. So you're getting
exactly. So the risk-free rate for someone with an offset account would be higher than going on the bond rate, right? Because you would have a 3% offset account.
I mean, I can see where you're going with that. I can see where you're going with that. To be honest, I've never really thought or heard of people trying to look at it in that sort of fashion because, you look more at what's the widely available because although you obviously get your 3.5% back, there are other factors that come and play with that, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I don't really have a good answer for you on that one, I guess.
There's probably risk that the bank could potentially take those funds, which is, I suppose that's a risk, right? I mean, it's not, which makes it it's unlikely, but there's a risk there, which is why they probably don't use that number. And not everybody has an investment property or property, I suppose. So it's not, not everybody has bonds, I suppose. But.
Yeah.
So you want this number to be higher. That's what you're wanting. You want the risk-adjusted return to be high.
So you want the ratio to be the Sharpe ratio. You want both of them to be as high as possible, right? Because it means that you're getting a really, really high return relative to risk. So it makes things look really attractive right now when the risk-free rate is really low, because obviously you're not subtracting out in that equation for the people out there who are really good at looking at equations. But the 10-year yield, the bond on the 10-year, the yield on the 10-year bond, tongue twister. That will start to rise as inflation comes back into it, as we move back into, I guess, a bit more of a traditional economic time, that'll rise. And then obviously that number comes down. So the only way to get it back up is to either raise your return or lower your standard deviation. Because, realistically, we can't control the risk-free rate, right?
I thought I could.
There you go. Okay, great. Cool.
Well, people loving these ratios and
well, this is the thing, right? This is why people hire people to do things for them because they're not necessarily care about risk-adjusted returns, but Lachlan cares so much that he makes a slideshow about it and jumps on a property podcast to tell us all about it. So if you have glazed over just a little bit, that's okay. We have experts that are loving this stuff, so don't get too upset if you don't fully understand it. And I'm sure we can share the slides with people so you can have a bit of a deeper dive into what this stuff means. But it's definitely so important to understand the risk that you're putting down and also the return that you're actually getting. Like ROI is a massive one. Have we got another slide? Is that it? Are we done with slides? Are we going to start talking about house and land packages?
The moment Joe's been waiting for. He's been waiting for. He's been tell me all about it. He's been like, I want to do this. He wants to do it.
Holy moly. Okay, let's get rid of this slideshow.
No, I think there's still a slideshow on House and Land, isn't there?
Oh,
here we go.
We'll add that in.
Okay, cool. Let's first talk about the definition of what a house and land package is.
Good to define. Yep, you define it, Joe.
Now we know what we're talking about, right? So what is a house and land package? A house and land package, the government will make land available. So land on the outskirts of a town, they will say this is now available. And developers will go in and purchase that land to then put the infrastructure down, lay down the pipes, lay down the roads, lay down everything, and then sell it off. They will then sell the land by itself, which is called a house and land package, right? And then the second one is a turnkey property. So there's a house and land package where the house and land is already built. You don't need to go to a showroom. You don't need to do all of that stuff. You can just get them built. So as an initial investment, when I started looking at property as an investment vehicle, I went to the loudest, the people with the best marketing, the ones that make the most money. And I thought that house and lands were actually going to be the best way to go. So I'm all for house and land packages in this scenario. Lachlan, what are your views on house and land packages?
Joe, what's going on, Joe? What's going into you, mate? Is Joe kind of support? And I don't know. What are your views on this, Lachlan? Go.
Jeff, you got to get rid of him now. This has got to become a one-man show. I think you got to take the reins.
Yeah, don't mute me, Jeff.
What are my views? What are my views? Great question. Look, my views on it are, and I think that probably most people in the group, and I think even you deep down, Joe, I don't like them. I don't think that they're great investments. I don't send any clients there. I mean, obviously, if I was a BA sending people to house and land packages, people would probably be coming after me anyway. But I don't think that they're very good investments. And I guess from my perspective, there's so many arguments around what's better, what's not. Can you really compare them? Can you not? Like one's over, you got a house and land over here. You got an established house over here. Like you're comparing apples and bananas. It's really hard to do. And I guess with that in mind, what I talk to my clients, friends, family, Aus property investors about is I just think of it in an academic sense, right? I try and break it down into an academic sense. Of course, it's not perfect, but I think it gives a pretty fair representation of it. So do you want me to go through that, or Joe, do you want to have a rebuttal?
Well, no. Well, I mean, I totally get it. Like house and land packages, you can just rock up. You get this brand new house, fully built, ready to go. It's going to have less maintenance because the stuff isn't going to break. So that's definitely a key feature, right? You walk into this place, everything's shiny, everything's new, everything's beautiful. The tenants aren't going to complain, so it's going to be pretty hassle-free, which is really, really good.
What about the tax? I mean, not that we can give advice, but
well, we definitely don't give it tax advice here, but one of the big things when I was talking to my spruiker friend, he said that there's big tax depreciations. I was actually in a seminar about 5-6 years ago, and the guy was like, you can actually structure your tax return that if it is, you can get paid quarterly instead of getting paid, like instead of doing your taxes annually, you do it quarterly, and you could actually pay your taxes quarterly. And that means with the depreciation benefits, you could get your return quarterly.
You can do it monthly if you want, Joe. It's called.
Was it monthly? It must have been monthly. It must
have
been
monthly. Monthly or quarterly.
So that is some desperate times. So there is depreciation that we have to think of. We have to think how pretty these places are, but that is one of the tools used, right? One of the other things as well is there are government incentives, right? What about these government incentives that I can get a brand new house and land package without having to pay stamp duty?
Do you need to
don't
watch
think I didn't come
now?
Don't think I didn't come here armed.
No. You can actually get established as well. You're talking about, you're not just talking about stamp duty, you're talking about grants, I think, as well. You can get established. You can get if you're a first home buyer, you can get stamp duty concessions as well.
Well, this is the debate, right? This is the debate. Come at me.
I think referee just put you in your place. I don't think you need to even go any further.
Very fair. Very fair. Exactly. Yes. So one of the big things you hear all the time is exactly that, right? Like, there's all these government incentives, but there are also those for people buying established dwellings. But also there was the home builders grant going on.
There was. And look, I guess even though I am on the negative side, sometimes you do have to weigh some of those things. Like I'll try and be a bit pragmatic about it, right? Sometimes you got to weigh it, especially when there are all these grants and incentives coming out. Depending on where it is, obviously, maybe there is an argument to give it 10 minutes of thought. Maybe.
So take us through the numbers, because I like the way, because I'll throw some arguments on both sides of the fence, because I've sort of I think I've got a somewhat sort of practical, pragmatic approach. But take us through the numbers. I love the way you presented to us last week when we spoke.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Like I said, I just try to think about it in an academic way, right? So, we're not in a vacuum. So everyone, please give me a break on that front. But we just want to try and make them as comparable as possible. So I think for most people, they would know you go and buy one of these house and land packages. Odds are, you're going to go buy one. You're going to go and buy a house or with the house and land package. It's going to be on like 450 square meters or 500 square meters of land. And about 350, 400 square meters of that is going to be the house, right? They build the house out as far and wide as they can around the building envelope on the lot, and they suck up as much land as possible with the house. So you end up in this situation where if you had, say, the hypothetical $600,000 house and land package, you're probably spending 2/3 of that on the house itself, and then because of the small block of land and what's left over, you've really, you've got that last 1/3 is in the land value.
So what you're talking about here is the land to asset ratio. How much land you have to the asset that you've got built.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And then we flip it over to the established property, and you go and look at a lot of these houses, and obviously not every house is going to meet this, but I would say in a lot of scenarios when they haven't been made in this house and land type fashion, you look back 15, 20, 30 years ago, you've got lots of land, and and the house takes up so much less of it, right? But also past that, it's been around for a bit longer. So realistically, and for the sake of this discussion, we flip it. The value's in the land, not in the house, right? So the land value is the most important, and the 2/3 in the established price, and then the other 1/3 is the house in this case. So just the exact opposite of the house and land package.
And just to kind of, if you go a step further, the reason why, and we're not accountants, we're not quantity surveyors, but the reason why is because over time that the house is going to depreciate, because it's like when you have a new car, right? You drive it out and it depreciates by 20%, 30% because people aren't willing to pay. It's the engine's kind of not as worth as much. All those, the parts are just not worth. Whereas the land is what you can actually, it's scarce, right? They're not making more land. Whereas you could subdivide something. If you've got an 800 square meter block, you could build 2 on it. Build 2 or 3, maybe not 3. But is that kind of where you're going with the house value being worth more at the beginning when it is first built, and then the land over time increasing as the house goes down?
Exactly right. And I think as well that you see that it's developers are really smart, believe it or not. For anyone out there who doesn't think it, developers are really, really smart, and they pay a lot of people a lot of money to work out how to divide up these big estates. And that's why you buy house and land packages, and they're on very small lots. The lot size of these packages are very small. You don't often go and see one that's got, or many, obviously there are some in these estates, but there are very few where you're talking like 600, 700, 800 square meters, because that's not where the money is for these guys. They want to be able to carve up as many lots as possible, and that's why most of them are very small.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's And if I'm going to throw some points on both sides, and Joe and Lachlan, because I'm a bit of the man in the middle, or the person in the middle here, the key term, the person. So the thing that I would sort of say is you can we haven't even talked about off the plan house and land. You can make money off these things, and there's not a lot of examples, but the examples that spring to mind are, you say in Sydney, purchasing around the sort of 2011, 2012, buying off the plan where they haven't been built for 2 years. You saw, and the reason why that happened though is because the market went absolutely crazy. You were seeing sort of 20 to 30 to 40% market wide, but there were people that were entering the contracts for, I don't know, maybe 600,000, and then when they were built, when they were finalized, these properties were worth 850 without having done anything. So it's not to say that off the plan house and land can't appreciate, but it's then how confident are you that you're going to see growth in that particular market? And we're seeing it again at the moment. Like some people I've seen in the comments as well, people saying that they've made money off a new build. And I would sort of say, okay, if it's a new area, it's going to be hard to. I'll go back and play the other side of the fence. I'll play the existing. If you look at the house, and lands, if you don't have a 5 or 10 year kind of history in the suburb, I would say, well, what is the price of that property going to look like in 5 or 10 years time? because is there going to continue to be low interest rates, not a lot of supply in the area, all these incentives? I would sort of say, well, maybe not. So how is it going to perform over the longer term? Because it's a lot of these, yes, they've sort of seen increases, maybe because they're sort of new, but how is it going to perform over the long run versus established? That's what I would sort of say as well.
Well, do you want to jump forward 10 years?
Oh, God. Okay, let's do it. Let's jump forward 10 years.
We can do it.
All right. Glory. So again, it's still academic, right? But we got two assumptions here. I want to try and keep things as fair across both of them. And I've said that both properties, the asset part is going to appreciate by 8% per annum for the 10 years. And then both properties, the liability or the structure or the house, they're both going to depreciate by 25% over that 10 years, right? So I'm keeping both the exact same to try and keep it as comparable as possible. Now, I don't, some people might argue about are the numbers fair enough or not, but the point is just to have a discussion, right? So as you can see there, when we look at the house and land, the house depreciates. And when you depreciate 25% over that 10 years, it goes down to 300,000. The land appreciates, goes up 8%, compounding, exactly as we were just talking about, compound annual growth rate. The land compounds and it goes from 200 up to 431,000 and a little bit, right? You then look to the other side and the established property. The house only goes down 50,000, it goes down to 150. So I guess on a total return or total change basis, a bit less than the house and land package. The land, on the other hand, because it was worth so much more, that grows by so much more. And the land goes from 400 up to 863,000. So after 10 years, that's how it looks.
So are we seeing, do you see this kind of stuff out there? Like, like a property that is worth 700,000 and one that's worth $1 million that is on a smaller parcel of land? Like that's on the market everywhere, right?
And this is where we get into the whole discussion of if we're trying to compare them, right? This is probably as close as we can get to comparing, because the house and land is probably going to be on the outskirts of the sticks, and the established property could be literally anywhere. It could be absolutely anywhere. So we've got to try and bring a bit of comparability. So the best way to do that is look at what's happening to the asset components of each and what's happening to the liability components of each. And if we just do this, if we give each the same effect, which is that 8% growth and 25% depreciation, to me, it's really clear, right? And for the people making comments saying they're making money, as you said, Jeff, absolutely you could. But if we're trying to compare side by side, to me, this makes it really, really clear that on the balance, you're going to do better than established. And I say to a lot of people every single day, cool. If you've got a house and land package that's done well, that's great. I'm really happy for you. I'm not in the game of saying you've done shit or you're not doing a good job or anything like that. If you succeed, that's great. I love that. I love that for people. I think that's awesome. But how do you know that if you bought in the established suburb or an established property 2 suburbs over or 3 suburbs over that you wouldn't have done better? Buying, and you can't look back. You can't look back in retrospect because you'd have to go and pick out an individual asset from 5 or 10 years ago, buy it for that price. It's not possible to do that properly, right? So, and that's the world according to me. I try my best to make arguments based on fact, and that's what these numbers are for. And I know that there'll be people who disagree, but I guess this is where I stand on it.
The one caveat I'm gonna say if a developer the person sort of selling this product can absolutely make money on this, and they can lose a lot of money as well. So it's not to say developing is not a golden ticket to go and print money. But I would say that if I was to invest in, or I don't know why you're using inverted commas, but if I was to hold a house and land, it would be because I'm the one who subdivided the land. I'm probably not going to buy the end product.
Exactly.
So we just want to say that we're not, and I get this. I got this a bit with some of the people saying, what about if I have to subdivide it myself? I'm like, well, okay, that's a different story because you're not buying this bright shiny object. I would say that probably has had a good deal of marketing sort of put in there. Somebody's been paid $40,000 to sell this asset. Not always, but a lot of the times there is people getting paid to put this asset put the keys in somebody's hands.
I agree. If you can develop, obviously assume it's a profitable development, everything that we're talking about, totally different, right? A totally different ball game. When you become the developer, like you said, that is a golden ticket, and that is how you can make some big, big dollars for yourself.
You can also, I've seen people lose their shirts. And it hasn't been pretty. So it's not something that's, that's I think there's going to be a lot of. I kind of want to just unpack. Joe, what are your thoughts on this, Mr.
Are we done with the slideshows? Is the slideshow done?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's shut it down. There's not. My face isn't big enough here. That's better. There we go. That's what we want. Oh, you're frozen there, Jeff. Okay, great. I'm going to talk before you jump in.
I asked you, did you put a
too late.
You didn't answer.
There you go. Okay, great. So one of the biggest ones, right? Absolutely, you can make money out of these things. There is 100% chance that you can make money out of a house and land package. The way that you do that is by 1, being the developer, and 2, being the marketer, and 3, getting that 99.99% one gem out there. So if you jump into a rising market, the way I like to think about it is if you're a first-time property investor, all of this crap is aimed at you to, like, actually there's one in the comments, right? This guy, real example, first home buyer, bought on the Sunshine Coast 12 months ago. They did 400K. It's now worth 460. It's now selling for about 460 to 480. So they're ahead about 100 to 120. I mean, I don't see the math on that adding up. But if you get the first home buyer grant and you live in it as a principal place of residence, then you get 40 grand discount. Then there's I think there's another grant as well that gives you $10,000 on it as well. But
varies from state to state. Yep.
But you have to live in it. So, like, absolutely, if the situation you can get access to those grants and it makes sense, then yeah, you can. But for the everyday investor, these type of properties are out in the middle of nowhere. Like, they're in the middle of just what's it called? What are they called?
Well, there's estates in Queensland. You've got Springfield Lakes. You've got
and then there are infill areas, right? Like people are mentioning, where you can just get a property that is a development of 3, 4, 5 lots, which can still have a bit of potential there. But when someone is building this, right? I'm very good at building properties. I'm a developer. I'm really good. What I'm not very good at is talking to people. I don't have a network of like that. I'm sorry, developers, sorry, builders. Like, I don't mean it like that. But you go out there and you pay a marketer to go out there and then buy the property. You pay them a commission. So if there is $40,000 commission, that has to go somewhere, and it has to come from someone. So it has to come from the value of the property. There's no other way around it. You can't just materialize $40,000. It has to come off the price. So someone's taking a haircut, and it's usually the person that is owning the property, the person that's buying it.
And I'd say to our house, first people that make money out of, especially the Sunshine Coast, I would say that an existing property in a close by area, as Lachlan said, a couple of suburbs over, you're probably seeing 20 to 30% more growth in that area. I don't know the area, but yeah, Sunshine Coast is absolutely bonkers. Going gangbusters in terms of prices recently. So I think that's an interesting kind of, I'd be interested to see a comparable existing property in a neighbouring suburb of that one. But yeah, this is enough. Lachlan, so what have you seen? I'm just thinking. I think there's probably heaps of questions in the comments, so I'm resisting from looking at them. But what's an example? Have you ever? I suppose you've never bought a house land package for a client, have you?
No, never. Okay, but I think I know what you're getting at, and I think it's really hard, right? Because there's just you are comparing apples and oranges, right? Because you don't have these two suburbs next to each other, so it's so hard to compare. And you look at it, and there are plenty of examples in the comments of people going, "I made money here, I made money there," and I think that the biggest thing just goes back to what I think all three of us have said: of that's awesome, but was that the place that you could get the best return at that time? If it was, then that's awesome. It was probably the 1% case or 1% chance that was it. But I would hazard a guess that there was probably somewhere better for the same amount of money, probably in the same city or region that you're in, that you just bought that house and land package in, that was established, that you would have got a better return. And I think for most investors, you just simply want the best return for your circumstances, right? Whatever that is.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing for me is there's a buyer's agent out there, and I'm not going to name names, but what he does, he's very smart in the way that he does his operation, is he buys house and land packages after about 3 or 4 years. So he will go find an established building, like someone's done a big estate, and then he'll go there and buy those house and land packages. Now, I still don't think 2, 3, 4 years in that they're still at that point. They're not at that point of catch up, right? They're like Jeff, perfect example. You bought your place, which I think was turnkey, was it? Was it like, oh, no, sorry. You didn't buy it turnkey. No, sorry. You didn't buy it turnkey.
I bought it 5, 6 years after. So it's actually a good example of what you're saying there, because
you bought 5, 6 years later, and the value that the person sold it initially for was less than what you paid for.
Yeah, so it's basically between 7 to 10% less than what the person who originally bought it.
And these are those developer margins that are built in there. And absolutely, my friends just built a house and land package off in the sticks where they want to live in, retire, and have a great life. That's awesome. That's the best way for them. That's what they're made for. But what I get upset about is when people start advertising these as good property investing decisions. They are not there for investing. It's not where you can so a version of investing is buying an asset that's going to appreciate in value at the best rate of return, maybe even an asset that you can add value to. So if you get a brand new house and land package, okay, here's an example. I bought my property. I put $26,000 in for a renovation, and I got it from $280,000 to $369,000. That money then refinanced and is back in my pocket. I've got my deposit back. When can you get access to your funds after you do a house and land package? Like, how long is it going to take for it to appreciate up to that point? Because you still have that $40,000 builder's margin that you have to pay off and chip away out. So how long is that? Is that the best place to put your cash? Or should you be buying the place in the suburb next door that's a little bit run down that you can add $20,000 to and triple your money and get $60,000 and then sell it? Maybe.
Joe's gone the other way. He's thrown in the white flag.
I'm throwing up the flag. It's just the people with the biggest wallets, the marketing, man. My auntie did this for a period. She would sell the crap out of all of this stock. And I'm like, how much money are you making? She's like, I'm making so much money. These are not investment grade. This is terrible. And it eventually ate into her. But it's not good. Just go buy an existing, put some effort in. That if you want to get a good return in property, you need to put some hard yard in. You got to find a property
it's
that needs help.
It's not to say that everybody that sells house and land packages is a spruiker. I don't want to.
I'm not saying that. If you're selling it purely based on, look at the glossy brochures. Look at the places in town that have all these showrooms and this 3D printed building. Who is paying for that? You're paying for that. Anyway, I feel like I might get off this soapbox.
There's one good question. No. I think there's one good question.
There's a couple of good questions.
There are, but there's one.
Before we tackle the questions, we got to pay the bill. Should we get our?
Shit. There is a good question here that says, "Can we hear from Lachlan?" So I feel like that rant may have gone for a little longer than needed. Okay, let's do this little ad. Let's talk about commercial property investing. It's one of those areas that confuses many people, probably because of the risks involved, but it's also one of the few asset classes that can give you a very positive cash flow from day one. With commercial property, you get some massive net yields of 6 to 10%. Now, that's not gross, that's net, which means it's cash in your pocket. This is what makes them so amazing. Your property can actually pay itself off within 10 years, grow in value, and without having you to chip in any cash at all. Now, with big rewards comes some big risk, which is why you should de-risk your investment as much as possible. The way you do this is with expert due diligence. This is why we highly recommend hiring professionals to help you along in your investing journey. Steve Polisi of Polisi Property is one such expert. He is one of Australia's top commercial property buyers agent. With his own multi-million-dollar property portfolio of a mix of commercial and residential, Steve has over 1,200 property transactions under his belt. He's the guy you want in your corner, crunching the numbers, finding the best properties in the best location, along with the ways to avoid the dud properties. Steve has even been the one to write the book on commercial property investing in Australia, and it's a bestseller. He's been generous enough to give us a massive discount to our audience of 50% with the code Aus Prop. Click the link below, get a copy today, and start your commercial property investing journey.
Yeah, that was a seamless session, Joe. Is that head big enough for you? So I was just bantering. I've got to drop the link, but I reckon we may need to bring. I know you had some slides or you wanted to talk about education, and I think that's vital. But I want to dive into the question. But first of all, I wanted to hear your summary though, Lachlan, on house and land. Like what to wrap that sort of side of things up, and then we might get into the Q&A, and then we may need to get you back. So house and land.
You're on mute, mate.
Yeah, I can unmute.
Isn't that embarrassing? House and land. Look, I think at the end of the day, for some people, it might work. For those people who go out and they buy it and they live in it, maybe there's a case for that. I mean, from my perspective, I separate both. Like, I would never want to live in one of the investment properties that I buy personally or for clients, and I separate those two worlds because I think that they need to be separated because they are different. But if that's your cup of tea, no worries. I think for most people, you're going to get a better return out of established. You have more opportunities to value add, which is a faster way to grow your equity rather than just sitting there. And you're just going to get a better investment result for the money that you put in. Not everybody will agree with that, and that's absolutely fine. I think that's what's awesome about this group, because everyone has a different perspective on things. But I think if you're erring on the side of caution and you're tossing up what you should do, have a bit of a better look at the established side, because I think you'll get better results.
Yeah,
that's far more diplomatic than I was.
Well, do you want to try and I don't know. I'm in two minds because I know you're super passionate about. Let's give an opportunity because you listened to Joe's rant. Let's kind of, before we get into the Q&A, and I love Joe's rant. It's kind of fun to see him. Really, he doesn't get super passionate, super excited all the time, so that's exciting. So education. Let's give a quick wrap up on education. What are you so passionate about education? What kind of things should people be looking to do when they buy or before they buy a property?
So for me, there's two sides of that. I think the first side is personal education, and then you've also got the professional education on either, for yourself, if you are a professional in this industry, or if you're a consumer looking to use somebody. So I guess on the personal side, no one's going to look out for you in the same way that you will. Like, I can't do it as good as you're going to do it for yourself, no matter how much I try, because everyone has a vested interest in themselves. So I guess what comes with that is, I think that people really need to do everything that they can to raise their general investment knowledge. And that was part of the reason why we talked through some of those metrics and numbers earlier on. You got, Joe, you put out the spreadsheet. There's a million books, of which I have one, Steve's got one, and there's every other
military guide to what's it called? Military's guide?
A military guide to property investing. So
bring it up. You got a copy there? Show us a copy.
Strategic.
What's the gold? What's the gold ribbon thing there?
That's an award.
A modern guide to financial freedom. There you go.
Yeah. So, and for us, that was a lot of the reason why we wrote it, because there were so many books out there, and there's plenty out there on residential, but a lot of them were filled with strategies that just weren't as applicable today, and they didn't really take into account the market that we all operate in today. And that was what Tori and I wanted to fix with this book, was put something out there that people can pick up and go, okay, I could actively do everything in this book, not, oh, some works, some doesn't, thanks Banking Royal Commission, things like that, So I guess back to the education piece, however you do it, right? I think it's so important to do it. There's so many different avenues out there. Like, you've got, I tend to think of education in three ways. You've either got formal, informal, or experience-based. Formal is going to be, you go out, you get qualifications, like you go to uni, you go to TAFE, whatever it is, and you get actual physical qualifications, a piece of paper on the wall. You've then got your informal, which is like groups like this, books, magazines, websites, forums, wherever it is, and that's where you're getting real life knowledge from people. It's not just, I guess, an academic sense of it, and you get to pick up so much through reading and osmosis. And then you got the experience side, which is, at some point you got to do it, right? Like, we can all sit here, we can all talk about, like, this is how you purchase a property, these are the 5 steps, but there's nothing like it until you do it, right?
Yeah. What are some of people's favourite books? Throw them in there. Apart from Lachlan's military, I'm going to read it as well. I'm going to give you an honest review. The other thing that I think is kind of let's just say somebody wants to really go deep into property investing, and they sort of think, okay, buyer's agent or education course. I think I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can have a buyer's agent and also do a property education course. I think there's people out there that say that you need to do one or the other. I'm like, I don't think you need to do one or the other. I think you can do both. So when somebody's
you should do both. Like you should be doing both.
But I suppose it's people selling the courses and the buyer's agents who don't want. They'll sort of say you can only do my one because my one's the best way. So what are the kind of things when you look at an education course, what things do you look at, Lachlan? What are the key aspects of it?
Well, I think firstly you got to look at the content, right? Like even if you don't get a certificate, even if it's not a formal piece of education, look at what the content is. Like here's from my own background, I have a graduate certificate in property investment, and I'm doing a master's degree in property investment development right now. There's a course similar to that's done by a top tier university. The one that I'm at, I guess relative, it's not a top tier university. It's very good at this property niche. It's very, very good. Yeah. And some unis are better in some areas than others. But I looked at the content of this course and I went, this is so much better than what, at some top tier university can offer me. So I went with the content. And I think for everybody, whether it's formal, whether it's somebody that's just offering a course or whatever, look at the content first, because that's the most important part.
Is that the uni of SA by any chance?
No, it is not the uni of SA.
Oh, really?
Okay, please. Property professor.
No.
Yeah, I love the.
No, it's the University of Western Sydney or Western Sydney.
WSU now.
Call themselves. Yeah. So I've studied at UNSW, which is like a group of 8, big institution or whatever, and I've had a much better experience at Western Sydney than I did at UNSW. Like for whatever reason that might be, it is different areas.
West is best.
West is best. But yeah, look, I think that's the first one, and the second one is look who's delivering it. Like, why is it that you're going to listen to them? And it's all good and well to say I've built a big portfolio, but I guess to make a statement, like there are a lot of Sydney investors who have a big portfolio because they got lucky. Like not everybody, but there are a lot of investors that got like that because of fortuitous timing. Now, if you're going to take a course, check up on this person and see why it is you're going to listen to them. I think that's the most important thing other than content, because if they don't know what they're talking about, why are you going to get something out of it?
Yeah, that's a very good point. What are some of the minimum requirements for people, do you think, from an education standpoint? What are the
are you talking about like personally, or if they're going to use a professional?
As an individual.
Yeah. I think the bare minimum, like you got to understand what's return on investment? Like, how do you work out growth rates? How do you look at data? Like how do you look at percentages of different things? Like I wish it was probably as cut and dry as going, if you know these 8 topics, you're going to do really well. But I think just go on like, what is it? I think it's called Udemy or something, like a big big online learning. Udemy. Yeah, there you go. There's a million courses on there on like just investing in general. And if you can just go on there, learn something about it, like that's awesome. I think that's fantastic, and the stuff I'm talking about is applicable across shares, bonds, property, venture capital, doesn't matter. It's the same stuff across all of them.
And we're going to, to give Aus Property a little bit of pride, we're going to have a fantastic YouTube channel cranking, and it's going to be this. But it's going to be so much easier to find stuff, because right now it's hard to find the Facebook Live. I must admit, I can find them, but I'm a bit of a mogul group. So yeah, we're going to be making it easier, and we're going to be doing sort of videos in there as well. So there's plenty of content here, plenty of great Facebook groups out there as well that you can kind of learn and sort of ask for experience. That's and I think what you said there applies to both buyers agents and education courses. I think you want to sort of ask, what have people done in their investing? It's not just what have they done, but what have they learned from what they've done? Because it's all good and well to say somebody's bought a 20 to 30 property portfolio, but if they bought those properties all in Sydney, as you say, they've probably timing has served them quite well if they've invested in a cycle for 20, 30 years. But if they've only invested in that market, what do they know about the Brisbane market? Are they only going to buy for you in the Sydney market? And if that's where you can, that's where you're going to buy, that's okay. But check their credentials, I suppose.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, look, I've done plenty of podcasts around the place, and I'm typically pretty vocal on this topic. I think that there should be higher education standards for buyer's agents, particularly. Like, I guess that's a pretty hot topic in this group, being buyer's agents, and accountants and lawyers already do have to have qualifications. But I think a BA should as well, and like that's why I've gone and done master's degrees in finance and property, because like I can't be part of the solution unless I'm doing it myself. And there's a lot of people out there who might have just been a brickie or a tradie, and that's not to say that they don't know what they're talking about. But I think that there should be a higher minimum standard, because it's no guarantee of success. But at least as a client, you can look and you can go, all right, well, if they've done X, Y, and Z, then I know they should know at least this, right? And it doesn't mean they'll apply it well, but it's better than nothing. And it's sort of I feel like it's the environment we're in now, where we've got to start raising it. And to be honest, maybe even the same for real estate agents. I don't know. I'll put that out to everyone else, their thoughts on that.
Controversial. I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think there should be. There definitely should be a higher standard. Like I was thinking about it as we were speaking at the beginning of this, like when we're talking about all these numbers, a buyer's agent is pretty much an asset manager for the client. They're giving 100%. Somebody almost, obviously you're not giving out a financial advice, you're not giving out financial services, but it's weird that that a buyer's agent can go out there and give someone a property, but and doesn't need an AFSL, it doesn't need an Australian financial service license, and can just do that stuff. And all you need is a Cert 4 in property, and you can go out there and start shipping it around. So absolutely, and I think that's what Picker and Pipper are doing. They're trying to make it a little bit more. And then there's the QPIA. What are your thoughts on the Q? Maybe we won't go down that route.
No, look, I'm happy to answer that. Like, I'm a member of Pipper, for example, and I haven't done the QPIA course myself. Like, I've seen some of the content, but like my perspective on it is, I think the notion of what they're trying to do is fantastic. Like, yep, it's not a formalized qualification or anything, but if you don't have any experience and you go and you wake up and you're like, I want to be a buyer's agent, and particularly on the investment side, like, we don't want to make it impossible for people, but that could be a really good route for you to, boost your own knowledge. And then you can say to clients like, hey, yep, I don't have degrees in this, or I don't have a 30 property portfolio, or I don't have this or that, but I have done the QPIA course and this is what it covers. So I'm really good and comfortable at doing this. And obviously that QPIA course, it covers a lot of really good content. So I think it's great seeing another group or an industry body making steps as well to do it. Like, that's my perspective on
it. Yeah, that's great. Well, how are you feeling, Lachlan? Are you you're not getting a vaccine, or because I know, feeling okay?
I feel ready for Freedom Day.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So let's kind of keep in mind we aim to keep it to an hour. Let's do an hour and a half. So let's round into some before we get into some questions. There were some really good questions. Any last things you wanted to say on education, or what are your top 3 kind of tips for even a new investor as things they should do before they go out and buy their first investment property?
Read a couple of books. Jump on a couple of online groups, and I mean, if you're watching this, you're obviously already in one. And take a bit of time. Like, obviously, you hear all the time that you should invest. As soon as you can invest, you should, and all that. That's fine when you've got that base, but don't rush the process either. Like, don't take too long. Don't rush it. Sit there, get a bit of knowledge. Understand that at some point you're going to be taking a leap, and that's fine. You're going to have the butterflies in the stomach when you're looking for the property or whatever, but take that time to make sure you feel like you know a little bit more than what you probably do today.
Yeah, that's wise counsel. Love it.
What's next?
Well, I'm interested in your so we've been going on at other people's investing strategy, not other people's, but we've been going on about the house and land investing strategy. What is your kind of like investing strategy? Like, what do you kind of go for as an ideal investment?
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, and it's always, I guess, personally as well as for clients, like, because it is dependent on your circumstances. But I think for me, you really want to build out a good foundation before you start moving into big sort of bigger stuff, or I guess things with less cash flow. Because right now, for most people, the biggest impediment is borrowing. So for me, I really like properties when you're building out your portfolio, you know, anywhere from like 400,000 to 700,000 range, depending on where you're at and budget and things like that. I find you get pretty strong yields on them, which is great for that servicing side. Obviously established. So these properties, you know, you typically got value add opportunities like renos or granny flats or subdivisional splits, or, you know, any of that sort of stuff. So you can make your own equity in it as well. But they're like, I talk about it as like a bread and butter property. Like you can find them in so many places around Australia. They fulfill a similar function in your portfolio to give you that, you know, almost like a house, that really strong foundation. So then when you go, all right, let's go buy that $1 million blue chip asset that's really negatively geared, well, the portfolio can then handle it, and your servicing is not going to be impacted, as an example. Or you're going to go for something that's got more development-y feel, and if things are not going strong or you need the cash flow while you're doing it, it's still got you. So that's sort of my perspective.
Yeah, I love that kind of balance and discipline, work ethic kind of. It seems like a theme throughout your life and throughout your career, throughout your investing. And yeah, I think Tori would probably say that as well.
Yeah.
I know she jumped in the comments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing is, I think a lot of people rush it. Like, property investing is meant to be slow to an extent. It's not something that you get into and then you get out of in like 8 years or 10 years. Like, obviously, if you want something big, I mean, if you only have small goals, maybe. But for most people, it's a long journey, and it is that discipline. And like, I mean, to give a bit of a book plug, we have literally a whole chapter on discipline, because for me, that's where I see most investors fall down, is that they get one property or they get two and it's not sexy anymore. And they're like, you know, I'm not really feeling this. Like, I've got 2 properties, it's great. And everyone knows the stats on, you know, property number ownership in Australia. And that's why, because you just run out of steam, because that discipline's hard.
Yeah, it's not exciting to say, oh, you know, I paid $1,000 to replace some carpet on the weekends. How good is that? Like, but no, I think it's important though, to look after the tenants, because you're partnering with them.
Yeah,
it's a business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go through some of the comments.
Yeah, let's do it. Will's been very vocal. I love that. I love that we don't censure the house and land pack. We do chat about it, because I actually agree with some of what Will said. I just want to bring this one up because it's a common objection. Sorry about blocking. I mean, I'll take myself down here so we can still see. So this is Will, who's bought he bought those in. Let's see. He said he Pimpama, which I think is sort of sunny coast area. I would be very. I'm going to go and look at Pimpama and just look at some established properties for 400,000 or 500,000. And I'm going to say that I don't want to look. Will's made the decision, but I think existing probably done a little better in Pimpama. But yeah, so what he said is he's saying use the extra cash to pay off a mortgage. I would say though, if you're at a stage of life, interested in your thoughts on this as well, Lachlan. If you're at the stage of life where you've got the ability to drop, buy 2 or 3 and have deposits 100 to 200K and not rely on the equity, that can work. What I would say is though, for younger people or people don't have a lot of a deposit, you buy that one house and land, and it grows at 3-4%, and then you can't then buy 2, 3 or 4. You're relying on that property growing. So that's, I mean, cash flow is great, but if you can only buy one property, yeah, sorry, that's yeah.
No, it was good. I just wanted to see you talking. I thought that what you were saying there was really good.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, the way, and I the first property I bought was quite new, and yeah, it was 6% yield, but it's hardly grown. So subsequently, I had to get more creative with the way I bought properties, and I bought 4 or 5 properties after that, and I was able to do it by doing more creative and putting more cash into it. So I mean, it's great if you can drop the cash. But so, what are your thoughts, Lachlan? I mean, to kind of counteract that comment.
Look, I think I agree with you on the balance. Like, I mean, my first comment though is, if you got that sort of cash sitting around and you're looking for cash flow, I'd probably be looking more at commercial. And I fully understand that that's not going to fit a lot of people's risk profiles and things like that. But if you got that sort of money and you are looking for cash flow, you're probably going to get a better result out of a well-placed, a well-located commercial or 2 or 3. I don't know. Obviously circumstance dependent.
Because the net, it's a net. The tenant pays all the outgoings. So let's just say something doesn't go according to plan, and your building insurance doesn't cover it. What do you do then? Your cash flow is great, but then all your cash flow is going towards any repairs that may go wrong, and that can of course happen with existing as well. So just to put that.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that I hear about cash flow with house and land type stuff is, it's the tax benefit stuff. Like, oh, I'm getting all this money back and that's what's giving me my cash flow. And that's fine and that's good. But like, as everybody just saw with the numbers that we had up earlier, like best case, let's talk best case, you may be getting $12,000 worth of deductions based on, say, depreciation or something. Like, and I feel like I'm being pretty liberal on that. And it's going to change based on your effective tax rate, as we talked about. But for a lot of people, that might be only like $3,000 or $4,000, and that's great. And cash flows obviously is good, but compared to the growth, like of those two things, like a $3,000 extra payment in the year, or maybe an extra $30,000 of growth. Like, I don't know if I'm just seeing things wrong, but to me, I would try and find a way to make that like way better growth work than get a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 extra, paycheck from the ATO.
Yeah, absolutely. And Will, thanks for popping in the comments there. Like, it's not easy. Like, I feel like, especially the way that I've been treating this situation, that I haven't made it too approachable. So thank you for putting that in. But it's a great example, right? Will has done incredibly well. Like, he hasn't put any money into it. He's generated good returns. He's got some tax benefits. It's just sitting there. He's admitted the growth isn't the best. But over the long term, he's not looking to sell it, so it doesn't really matter. And I guess what I am seeing a lot more are those type of properties that just don't, like Jeff's type of property. Hang on, Jeff, let me share my screen. I just found I found this one. I found it the other.
Whilst we're doing that, this is something, share screen. But there was somebody who said PPR's a house and land in Western Sydney building to the value is more than double. And I say that's a product of the market rather than anything else, as I said there.
Yeah, after 2011, it's not a house and land package anymore. It's just a house that was built in, and the area has infilled around it exactly like the government has said. That's what they promised. So this property here, 32 to 70 Willow Road, this property was purchased for, let's have a look at it, $327,500 in July 2017. So this person has, how many years is that?
4 years.
4 and a bit years. Okay. This property sold just sold recently. Let's go to, is this the one?
$263,000.
$263,000. So this is what upsets me. Someone has sat on a property for this long and it's sold for $263,000. That's a loss of $64,000 plus their legals plus their stamp duty. So if you're going out there expecting to get a property for like, if you want to do what we talk about, right? We are not the normal everyday property investors that buy one and then in 3 years' time we buy another one. We're trying to accelerate our wealth. That's what we're here to do. Not set up our future, like not just sit on it and kind of hope and pray. But that's what I'm seeing, that people are putting in all their deposit. They're working incredibly hard. They're saving up their deposits. They're putting in mum and dad's guarantor loan and everything. And then constantly I'm just seeing these products come under value. And you can't go on to the next one. You can't accelerate to the next one. So it really makes it difficult. But if you are, if you get one that is good, absolutely, it's great. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that. You're going to get a situation right here. And the challenge that I see is, the way I like to put it is, you just take everything that has the opportunity for risk, just take it off your plate. House and land packages have a lot of risk, especially if you run these risk numbers through Lachlan's thing, it would be absolutely crazy and you wouldn't want to put your money into it. So take it all off your plate.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested. Well, maybe we should have done that. But I want to hear from Lachlan on this. So Chris was on 2 weeks ago, and he's done some cracking renos. If he's still watching, let us know. What are your thoughts on this, Lachlan?
That was actually, remember how I said, oh, there's one question that I wanted to answer. This was actually the one question that I wanted to talk about. I think it's a really good, it's a good thing to put out there. And I think that there's no clear cut answer, right? Like there's no textbook that says it. There's no consensus anywhere. And I think if I just like try to break it down, I think that the earliest point that it can become established is when the whole area has been developed, right? And by whole area, I mean, like if you want to call it a suburb, the whole area, the whole suburb, or if it's in a bigger state, the whole estate has been developed. I think that's the earliest case that you can do it. I would say though that the better case to call it established is when north, south, east, and west around it has also been done out, because it's all good and well that your suburb's been done, but when you've got massive supply from say another estate just behind you in a brand new estate, it's not technically part of yours, but is a stone's throw away, it will still impact your own property prices. So yeah, that's probably what I think about it.
And your rentals as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because if a new estate comes online right next to your estate 10 years later, 5 years later, which one's going to be a better fit, yours or theirs?
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm going to make a shout out to everybody, and I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to make a shout out to everybody who's a house and land fan that's put comments out there. No matter what, like we're talking about 1% differences here, and everyone who's bought an investment property is already doing better than like 99% of other people out there, whether it's an off the plan or a house and land or something else. And I think that regardless of what you're doing, the fact you're doing something is really good and really important. And if that's your strategy and it's working, keep doing it. If you want to take on board things that I've said or what other people say, or I guess a more community consensus, great. But more than anything, you're making great steps. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's great. That's an excellent call out, and it's something I think you're probably really good at. You're good at acknowledging and focusing on positive kind of things. That's there you go. I love it.
It's very diplomatic.
Let's get time for one or two more questions. So I want to there's been some touchy red hot buttons topics. So yeah, ask any questions you want of Lachlan. Hopefully, we want to get answers from Lachlan. Joe's
nothing too hard though. Or I might.
Yeah. But whilst we're waiting for a question or two to roll in from the audience, because there's still heaps of people that are on a Wednesday night, so I'm sure we'll get flooded now with questions. Maybe even what are you seeing about? I mean, tell us about the state. I suppose you don't have to tell us the areas, but which kind of what are you sort of seeing generally across, say, one or two states that you're looking at the moment?
Honestly, across a lot of the states that I'm looking at, and I wish this was going to be a juicier comment on what it is. Supply is just such a problem. Like I'm having clients, and I'm saying to them, like, guys, it might take us 5 or 6 weeks to find something good quality. Like, I don't want to lie. You know, if we can get it in 3 or 2, that's great. But I want to set your expectations, because there's no point buying crap 2 weeks earlier to spend 10 years regretting it. You know, you got to take a bit of time. And it's just, it is crazy. It is crazy, the supply issues out there. People are always coming, going, I want off markets. And I guess something else I'm seeing is that all the off markets at the moment are usually anything good agents are putting up, and it's selling like wildfire. And then anything that's an off market, a lot of the time, are cheap vendors who don't want to pay. And then often they're also the same type of vendor who has really inflated expectations, and the agent doesn't want to put their name to it publicly. So, you know, they keep it in the pocket and all that. And, you know, the good quality off market stuff is so much harder to come by as well, because there's no incentive to keep it off market, really.
Yeah. Wow. That's
you guys got any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on like how it's going to go going forward? I know there's a bit of a crystal ball here, but what's the kind of consensus out there with the real estate agents, with people on the field about like, okay, well, when is this? It's been red hot for a while now. Like, what do you see happening?
Well, I think. So what I'm seeing a bit of at the moment is what I'm calling COVID fatigue. And that's a lot of people who are, you know, for half the country is almost in lockdown, right? And people are just getting tired. They're not really with it as much. Making big decisions is hard to come by. Lockdowns obviously make issues with selling properties or buying properties anyway. But supply is tight. And I guess for the crystal ball type thing, as soon as things open up, we saw it last year, and CoreLogic published a really good, I think it was a full-on report about it, that talked about the impacts of COVID lockdowns last year versus what happened as soon as we opened up. And I mean, if history is anything for us to judge on, which, there's that good Winston Churchill quote about those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I suspect we're going to have a very similar outcome to what we saw at the end of last year, running into the start of this year, where as soon as Australia starts freeing up a bit, we're going to have supply coming back in, but we're also going to have massive demand following it, because that COVID fatigue I was talking about has taken a lot of buyers out of the market because they just don't want to deal with it. So I think what's going to happen is we'll get more supply. It'll be, I guess, on the balance, more than where we are right now, but there's going to be a lot of buyers that soak that up. So I think that we're going to be in for a really hefty bit of growth still to come over the next probably, 9, 12 months at least, as we start to, free up and ease up and everything.
Yeah.
And one of the points on that as well, which I find interesting, is that it's like Victoria and New South Wales are the biggest, economic powerhouses for Australia, right? First and second. And those guys, last time it was Victoria wasn't in lockdown. New South Wales wasn't in lockdown for such a long, extended run. Now we've been in lockdown for a long time here in New South Wales. So it's got a lot of pent up demand there with people with money as well.
Absolutely.
I think the other. Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, and to compound that, people are saving, and so there's a lot of cash flow in the bank accounts. But because of the market activity that is happening, especially if you look at something like a Sydney, people's homes are still going up at a pretty rapid rate. So think about all the equity that's been built up in just this almost 3-month lockdown alone. Like, it's probably, I think I looked at the CoreLogic numbers the other day, and it's about 6 to 7% in this 3-month window. So like, imagine that on a $1 million property of equity, let alone savings and all the rest.
Probably $60,000.
Boom, deposit right there.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I was talking to somebody about today is, and it's going to be a bit of an X factor. Who knows what it'll bring? But eventually, once we do decide that we're no longer going to be hermit kingdom anymore, we're going to allow people to come into the country. We'll probably test them about 15 times, of course, just to make sure they just haven't got a whatever they've got. But yeah, it's going to people who I suspect there's going to be a flight. Sort of, I'm not an economist, so take this with a grain of salt. Flight to quality, international. People are going to say, well, I don't necessarily want to keep my money all in Southeast Asia or somewhere. Very rich people are going to say Australia handled this relatively well, not so much at the moment, but they're going to say, I want to go and park my money somewhere else in the world, whether that be Australia, maybe US, maybe Canada, all these England, and it's who knows what that could sort of light another. That could be round two on seeing more growth around sort of the major sort of cities, but I don't know, maybe Australia wide, but I think mostly Sydney and Melbourne.
I totally agree. I mean, you don't have to look very far to find plenty of accurate reporting that we're pretty much in the midst of a rental crisis nationally, in terms of number of renters versus dwellings available. That's only getting worse just from us. Imagine, to me, it doesn't take a genius to think about what happens when we turn on the tap of international migration, and not even necessarily migration, but think about like backpackers or just people who come for short stays, and by short stays, I mean like maybe it's 1 or 2 years, plus migration. That's going to be huge. Like we're struggling to cope right now with just our own population. So, I mean, excess demand versus supply.
More house and land packages.
I mean, he's joking, but he's there.
He's not wrong.
We haven't actually had any questions come through. Like, I'm disappointed, audience. Like, what? There's like 30 plus people watching. Nobody wants to ask it. Is it because we stopped talking about house and land? Like, I think I'll leave it for another couple of minutes, and in those couple of minutes, I want to give. You said there's an offer that you'll have our audience. So probably pop it in the comments, but maybe give us how do people get access?
Right? You've got me curious now.
So obviously, as we've spoken about a few times, I've just published a book with my partner Tori. And fantastic. Obviously, we're a bit biased, but we think it's really fantastic. And it's in all major bookstores and online retailers anyway. But we wanted to give a bit of a special offer out to the Aus Property investors. And if you just go to our website, atlaspropertygroup.com.au, and then you buy the book from there and use code Aus Prop, so AUS Prop, half price. Yep,
Ooh.
Make it simple. Aus Prop,
half price.
It's like easy.
Yep. So it's practically giving it away, right?
It's giving half away. You don't get half a book; you get the full book.
Put that in there. You can put the link in the comments after Lachlan, or if Tori's still, I think Tori's still watching. So Tori, if you pop that in for Lachlan, so he doesn't have to do. I mean, I should make Lachlan do it. Let's make Lachlan do it, so he has to remember. So somebody asked, can you share the Excel caps?
Yeah, so it's just PowerPoints. I can export that to a PDF, and Jeff or Joe, if you want, you can upload that into the group just to make it easy for everybody.
Will do.
Yeah.
There you go. No more questions, mate.
That was a question, to be fair.
It was. It's very true. That was a question.
I've already afraid to share their House and Land stories. I mean, no, don't be afraid. Like I think it's important that we keep as open minded as we can. So it's not to say that it can't work with people, but we just want to put our perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Well, mate, I think thanks for taking the time to run through this. I think you've got some interesting and unique insights into the data side of things as well, that a lot of people, like the basics of the basics, like ROI is confusing, right? It's a difficult thing to understand sometimes, but you broke it down really helpful, and you helped us with the house and land packages. So now we know a little bit more about that. And thank you for William to give us the breakdown from the other side of things as well. I think there was a whole heap of insights that I'm going to take away, and I'm going to learn how to do that risk return. No, the other one on Excel. I will learn how to do it.
Standard deviation?
Yes, standard deviation. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Make a workbook.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you make a workbook, put it up as a post. So yeah, because that's something that I think people love seeing actionable kind of, and maybe put a narrative around it. So yeah, I love that Will's continued to watch. He just said, "Thanks, gentlemen, great forum." Like how cool is that? Like he hasn't taken he's actually just stuck in there. Like how good is that? I really respect somebody who is not necessarily agreeing with what they're saying. Like how awesome is that? And all questions have been answered as well. So somebody's
answered.
Probably there's one that we missed.
Full stop.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been awesome. I think, look, we did cover some more controversial topics tonight, but I think that it's healthy. I think good debate. It's like I don't want to get political or anything, but good debate's a good part of a democracy. I think it's great. We all have different strategies. Like I said, I think if you're doing anything, you're better than most people. But I think that there's a lot of good insights for anyone that ends up watching back and makes it to an hour and 47 of the video. That I feel like we played both sides not too bad, and there's some good insights for either camp.
Yeah. Your final comments on getting it done. You are doing incredibly well by having it there. Well said. Cool. Okay, guys. Well, have a great night, and let's go buy a property. See you later. Have a great one.
Stick around if you want to.